The big voice that we're getting you today on ET Now. It is coming in from HDFC Bank, and my conversation and my colleague Ajay, who's in conversation with the top management of the bank to particularly get trends when it comes to rural and commercial banking.
I must tell you that last quarter, because we had some respite from the pandemic, me and my team, we were on travels every week between October and December. There was not a week that I was not out. And this was not to the metro cities in Bangalore or Chennai. And I always told people that go out to Shimoga. I went to Hubli and I went to Dharwad. And a variety of places. When you go to Chennai, my encouragement was that go out to Theni and go out to Namakkal, go out to Salem and Erode, and you will understand what is happening on the business space. When you meet customers, there is no dearth of orders. The economic activity is very strong. And in the last quarter, the overdraft utilizations by the MSMEs strengthened quite significantly to above 70% by the end of the quarter. Obviously, it did become a bit soft in the last 7 or 8 days of December, just before quarter end, because at that point of time, there was the scare on Omicron. People didn't have that conviction or belief. They didn't know what is going to happen. But now that it seems that this is a flash flood, as suggested even in a RBI bulletin on January 17th, there is much greater confidence, and we are again seeing very strong activity on the ground.
Rahul, we gather that HDFC Bank is doing phenomenally well, gaining market share, incremental market share as well on the MSME side. Give us some feedback, how much of that is happening, and what are you targeting now internally? What thresholds are you eyeing?
Thank you. Commercial and rural banking businesses, we did very well in the last quarter. It is an expectation that we should, continue to do well. And I've always maintained that this is a business that should continue to grow at 25 to 30% for, the foreseeable future as you look at it. So last quarter, our overall growth was approximately in this business 30% YOY, but the SME piece alone, that grew at 39%. In agri, we reversed the natural trend of negative growth in the quarter, and in transportation finance, we became the dominant player. Our market share in MHCV is about 30% of the industry today in terms of financing. But the question is today is not about number one. It is about credit expansion to those entities who are not yet in the formalized credit space. You would have seen research which suggests that the total credit requirement for MSMEs is about 50 lakh crore. Out of this, banks and NBFCs today provide just about 40%, in which we have a 13% market share. But the burning question is, how do we bring 5 crore entities, MSME entities, who are not in the formal credit system into the formal credit system? And how does the formal credit system meet their 20 lakh crore credit needs? And that would be a very important question. So we are working on a plan for next year and over this decade. And I am very optimistic about this space.
How much of this growth which you are eyeing is sustainable? Is the size of the opportunity large enough? Also, this growth, what are the challenges on asset quality? Could it also cast a shadow on your asset quality because growth may be slightly on the riskier side? How are you balancing between the two?
Look, if you come back and step back and put pen to paper and you take a look that our destiny as a nation will be determined by MSMEs, and you plan forward, should we be 4 to 5 times, by the end of the decade in this space? Why not? There is so much unmet credit need. There are so many entities which are still not in the formal banking system. And by entity, our market share is pretty small. And so there is just a dramatic scope of expansion. So to that end, for next year, we are working on a 1+1 plan, which means that whatever is our book size by the end of March, we are going to match it rupee for rupee in terms of incremental disbursements in the next year, which is a huge amount of NTB acquisition. So that takes me to the second part of your question, which is asset quality. Now, we have continued to improve in our business, GNPA percentage in the business every quarter this financial year. But I must tell you that there is a lot of fear of this NPA, which people voice, bankers voice, but in my belief is that it is unfounded. In fact, it is irrational and misguided if you do business the right way. And my working goals are very simple. When it comes to mid-corporates, for the banking system, the GNPA should be a few basis points, and the MSME GNPA should be less than 1%, which means that net NPA is a very, very small number. Which is why we as a business are a strong earnings contributor, in addition to being growth driver, but also a growth enabler for the bank, because we are contributing to priority sector lending disproportionately within the bank. So that is how I see this issue.
Rahul, also it is important to know your thoughts on from the budget, Union Budget 2022, because you do work with MSMEs, you have a direct line with them, you understand how government can take further steps in order to empower them and make their lives easier on the agri side and MSME side. Your expectations?
If there was a wish list, it is only one. Yes, they need marketing support or export support or taxation support, but the budget can enable bringing a lot of unbanked entities into the formal system. The ECLGS scheme in the last 2 years is the most important government scheme for the sector that came in, but it was only for the borrowing entities. At least our suggestion, which we have shared with very many regulatory agencies, is pretty simple. It is the usage of GST for cash flow based lending to MSMEs. The fear, you take it out by providing a ECLGS cover. These are entities who've not borrowed, but they are doing business and they are paying GST. We compute or impute their sales turnover, and about 25 to 30% of their sales turnover we extend or banks extend as credit for their working capital needs. Now, what is this going to do? This will reduce borrowing costs for MSMEs. This will also reduce collateral required to be provided for the entrepreneur. And do you see how game-changing it would be? Because there would be little to no impact on the government balance sheet today, and there will be not much impact in future in terms of guarantee-related claims, because the GST data is there. You can monitor the business as it goes along for how well it is doing. And so the probability of default becomes very low. This is one simple step which will have a dramatic expansion of bringing more and more MSMEs into the formal banking system.